When two wives live under the same roof, people believe conflict is a woman's nature. But what if I told you that in this story, the fault was not the woman's? The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet compound of Chief Nana, casting long golden rays across the manicured gardens and the stone pathways. Inside, a soft clatter of dishes mingled with the distant crow of roosters. In one corner of the grand hall, Kochi sat quietly, folding a fresh set of clothes. Her hands moved with practiced grace, but her mind wandered to the years she had spent hoping for peace, for love, for a home that felt like hers. Could anyone truly understand the weight I carry? Across the courtyard, a new presence arrived, a young woman named Adana, moving with a confidence that immediately drew every eye. Her skin shimmered with a warm bronze glow, her hair perfectly arranged, and her dress a modern touch of elegance that seemed almost to announce her arrival. She stepped lightly, every motion intentional, as if the world belonged to her. Adana paused at the threshold of the house, inhaling the familiar yet foreign sense of this new home, and felt a flutter of nervous excitement. This is my chance to belong, to be noticed, to matter, but at what cost? Kochi, sensing a new presence, lifted her gaze slowly. Their eyes met for the first time, a quiet, tentative moment. Kochi's heart beat slightly faster, a mixture of curiosity, caution, and an unspoken wariness. Adana smiled politely, her voice soft yet clear, "Good morning. I hope I'm not intruding." Kochi nodded slightly, the words caught in her throat. Silence stretched between them, weighted with unspoken questions. Two women, two stories, converging in a single home. As the morning unfolded, the contrast between them became clear. Kochi moved quietly through her chores, a rhythm born of years of patience and duty. Adana explored boldly, touching fabrics, opening cupboards, her laughter light but tinged with mischief. She admired the house, imagining the life she could have within these walls, unaware of the history and hurt already embedded in every corner. Kochi watched her, a nod of calm. The morning sun filtered softly through the lace curtains, casting gentle patterns on the floor where Kochi sat alone, her hands resting on her lap. A quiet sigh escaped her lips, barely audible over the distant chatter of the servants. 10 years had passed in this house, yet every corner reminded her of what she lacked, a child to call her own, a joy to fill the silent emptiness. The neighbors spoke in hushed tones whenever she passed, offering polite words that only felt like knives. Why must my body carry the burden of shame for a secret I did not create? She rose slowly, moving to the courtyard where the flowers she had planted years ago swayed in the morning breeze. Kochi's heart ached not only for her barrenness but for the loneliness that had settled in like a shadow. Every laugh from passing villagers, every congratulatory whisper for expecting mothers, reminded her of the impossible expectations she had failed to meet. The village never mocked openly, yet the invisible weight of judgment pressed heavily upon her shoulders. Then, Adana arrived. Young, vibrant, and seemingly untouched by the pressures that had worn Kochi down. Her presence was immediate, undeniable, like a spark igniting a quiet fire. She moved freely through the compound, laughing softly at her own thoughts, her skin glowing, her eyes bright with hope and mischief. To the villagers and the servants, she was a breath of new life. To Kochi, she was a reminder of every whispered comparison, every silent judgment that had plagued her for years. As Adana greeted Chief Nana with a radiant smile, Kochi felt a mix of emotions twist inside her, jealousy, sorrow, and confusion. Why was it that this young woman could so easily step into the life she had fought to preserve, yet feel no fear, no pressure, no doubt? Kochi kept her face calm, a fragile mask over the storm within. Must I bear this pain alone, while she thrives in the home I once thought was mine? Days passed, and the tension between them. The morning light spilled into the grand bedroom, but it could not warm the chill that had settled in Kochi's heart. She had noticed it first, a subtle change in Adana's walk, the gentle swell of her clothes around her midsection. At first, Kochi tried to ignore it, telling herself she was imagining things. But the whispers among the servants, the knowing glances from neighbors, and Chief Nana's sudden glow of pride told her the truth. Adana claimed she was pregnant. Kochi's chest tightened as she watched Adana move through the compound with a radiant smile, cradling her bump as if rehearsing the joys of motherhood. Every step she took, every laugh she shared with Chief, felt like a dagger twisting in Kochi's heart. How could someone so new to this home, so fresh in their presence, capture the love and attention that Kochi had longed for silently, for years? Why does it feel like the world celebrates her victory while my soul breaks in silence? Adana's excitement was infectious, even to the villagers who had once admired Kochi's quiet grace. She shared the news with friends, laughing softly over the phone. My sister, imagine. I haven't even tried, but soon I will be a mother. This poor co-wife has been here for years, nothing. Kochi overheard the words, and the world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. The humiliation, the sorrow, the helpless anger, each emotion collided inside her, threatening to spill over. Days turned into weeks, and the pregnancy showed no signs of slowing down. Adana's stomach seemed to grow overnight, her energy never faltering. She remained charming, sweet, and vibrant, as though the deception were effortless. Meanwhile, Kochi's silence became heavier with each passing day. She watched, she endured, she grieved quietly in a home that had become a stage for lies. One afternoon, Kochi's resolve pushed her to seek guidance. She walked to the village herbalist, Diako, a man known for seeing through falsehoods and uncovering hidden truths. The dusty path to Diako's hut seemed longer than usual that morning. Each step weighed heavily on Kochi's heart, burdened by weeks of doubt, pain, and jealousy she had carried silently. She had tried to ignore the whispers, the growing attention Chief Nana showered upon Adana, and the swelling rumors of pregnancy, but her soul would not allow her peace. Today, she needed answers. The door creaked open as Kochi entered, the smell of herbs and smoke filling her senses. Diako, the herbalist, did not look up from his grinding stone. His hands moved skillfully over a mix of roots and powders, yet his voice, calm and knowing, reached Kochi without hesitation. I have felt your sorrow in the winds, child. Your spirit carries a heavy weight. Tell me, what troubles you so? Kochi hesitated, her throat tight, her emotions threatening to spill. My co-wife, she whispered, she says she is pregnant, but something feels wrong. I cannot bear this uncertainty any longer. I need to know the truth. Her hands trembled as she spoke, gripping the edge of the table like a lifeline. Diako paused, a small smile breaking the stoic expression on his face. You have suffered long in silence, he said. But the truth cannot remain hidden when eyes are closed to nothing but lies. Your co-wife is not with child. Kochi's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? She asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Diako's gaze softened, his voice firm yet gentle. The spirits reveal what is real and what is false. If she were truly carrying a child, I would see it, I would feel it in the air, in the threads of her spirit. But I see deception, clever and convincing, yes, but deception nonetheless. The one who suffers is your husband's pride, not your womb. Shock, relief, and a flood of anger surged through Kochi's veins. All the sleepless nights, the tears, the silent humiliation, they had been caused by a lie, a mask worn to manipulate a man blinded by desire. So it wasn't me. I wasn't. Kochi stood outside Adana's room, her hand trembling slightly as she knocked. The door opened slowly, revealing Adana, her face painted with a forced smile that barely concealed the tension underneath. The air between them was heavy, thick with months of unspoken words, jealousy, and suspicion. Today, that tension would finally find its voice. Kochi, Adana said softly, her smile faltering, what brings you here? There was an edge to her voice, a mixture of curiosity and caution. Kochi took a deep breath, steadying her resolve. It's time we speak the truth, Adana, she said firmly, stepping into the room. No more hiding. No more pretending. I know about your fake pregnancy. Adana's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing her face before she composed herself. How do you know? She whispered, as if hearing the accusation aloud made it real. Kochi's voice was calm but edged with sorrow. The herbalist knows. He saw through the lies. I cannot continue living in fear and silence while deception thrives around me. For a moment, the room was still, the weight of the confrontation pressing on both women. Then, slowly, Adana's composure crumbled. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice broke. I only wanted his attention. I wanted to feel important, she confessed. I never thought it would come to this, Kochi thought, feeling a mix of empathy and lingering anger. Kochi's own tears threatened to fall, but she held them back, choosing instead to speak from her heart. We have both suffered, she said softly. But the suffering caused by lies is heavier than any pain we carry for ourselves. Do you not see that? The rhetorical question hung in the room, demanding reflection. Adana nodded slowly, shame and regret etched into her expression. I was wrong, so wrong, she admitted. I never wanted to hurt you, Kochi. Kochi stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. And yet, the truth can heal, if we allow it. We cannot change the past, but we can choose how. Kochi and Adana sat on opposite sides of the small, sunlit room, each holding a small envelope containing the results of the fertility tests they had secretly taken. The air was heavy with tension, thick with anticipation and unspoken fear. Both women had lived months under the shadow of blame, carrying the weight of an invisible fault, never daring to voice the silent accusation lingering between them. Today, that silence would finally shatter. Kochi opened her envelope first, her hands trembling slightly. She stared at the result, her eyes widening in disbelief. It's negative, she whispered, barely audible. Relief and confusion mingled in her voice, but there was no time to linger. Adana, shaking with nervous energy, revealed her result next. She gasped, then froze, eyes darting toward Kochi. The same, it's negative, she murmured, her voice trembling with shock. A silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating, as the weight of realization began to settle. Could it really be him? Kochi's inner thoughts swirled with disbelief and sudden anger. Both women had been blamed, both had suffered social humiliation and emotional torment, but the truth now pointed to the one they had both trusted, the man who had kept them in shadows of guilt. The realization hit like a wave. Anger mixed with sorrow, and yet there was a strange sense of liberation. No longer were they victims of infertility, they were victims of ignorance, of assumptions made without truth. Kochi's voice broke the silence, firm yet filled with emotion. All this time, we blamed ourselves, while the real problem was hidden. Adana's eyes filled with tears, nodding slowly, finally seeing the injustice that had bound them. The women shared a glance, once filled with rivalry, now replaced with understanding. The bitterness of months began to melt into cautious empathy. We suffered together, yet for different reasons, Adana whispered. I never imagined relief could feel so heavy, Kochi thought, her ch. The night was quiet, but inside the small sitting room, something powerful was taking shape. Kochi and Adana sat across from each other, a single oil lamp flickering between them. For the first time, there was no jealousy in their eyes, no guarded silence. Only truth, heavy but freeing, rested in the air. Kochi broke the silence, her voice calm yet steady. We were made enemies, she said, not by fate, but by ignorance. Adana lowered her gaze, shame and understanding mixing on her face. All this time, I fought you, she replied softly, when the real injustice was hidden behind pride. The words did not accuse, they connected. They spoke openly, sharing wounds they had never dared to name. Kochi talked about years of quiet humiliation, of being measured by what her body could not give. Adana spoke of fear, fear of being ignored, replaced, forgotten. As the night deepened, their stories intertwined, revealing how differently pain wears the same face. We were broken in different ways, but by the same hand, Kochi thought. Then came the turning point. We could shout, Adana said, her voice trembling, we could fight, but would that truly change him? Kochi shook her head slowly. No, she answered. Violence will only protect his ego. We must teach him with truth, with dignity. The rhetorical question lingered. What frightens a powerful man more than silence backed by unity? Together, they formed a quiet plan. Not revenge, but reflection. They would withdraw their labor, their emotional support, the invisible sacrifices that had made Chief's life easy. No arguments. No tears. Just distance and calm honesty. He would be forced to face the emptiness he had created. Adana straightened her back, a new strength rising in her voice. For the first time, I do not feel small, she said. Kochi reached across the table and held her hand. Because you are not, she replied. In that simple touch, years of rivalry dissolved. Two women, once divided by lies, now stood as ally. Morning arrived with an unusual silence in the compound. No warm greetings. No neatly prepared meals waiting on the table. Chief Nana stepped out of his room, expecting the familiar rhythm of the house to serve him as always. Instead, he found stillness. Kochi and Adana sat together in the courtyard, calm, composed, their faces unreadable. Chief frowned. Why is everything so quiet today? He asked, his voice carrying the authority he was used to. Kochi slowly stood up, her posture steady. Because today, we speak as equals, she replied. Adana joined her, her voice gentle but firm. And today, you will listen. The words startled him. No shouting. No tears. Just truth standing tall. Kochi gestured toward the kitchen. For years, this house ran because of unseen hands, she said. Today, you will feel what responsibility looks like. Confused and irritated, Chief was asked to prepare his own meal, wash his own clothes, and tend to simple household chores he had never noticed before. At first, he resisted. Pride flared in his eyes. Is this how you show respect? He snapped. Adana met his gaze calmly. Respect begins with understanding, she said. How can you value what you never carry? The rhetorical question hung in the air, heavier than anger. As the hours passed, frustration replaced confidence. Chief struggled with tasks he once dismissed as insignificant. His hands, used to command, now fumbled with water and fabric. Sweat lined his brow. Silence forced reflection. Have I really lived so comfortably while others carried my burdens? By afternoon, the authority in his voice had softened. He sat down heavily, exhaustion etched across his face. Kochi spoke again, her tone steady, not cruel. We were blamed, shamed, and broken, she said. Not because of truth, but because it was easier to protect your pride. Adana added quietly, we are not asking for punishment. We are asking for accountability. For the first time, Chief Nana lowered his eyes. The walls. The house no longer echoed with silence or tension. Instead, it breathed softly, like a place finally allowed to rest. Morning light spilled into the compound, touching the walls that once held pain and misunderstanding. Kochi and Adana moved through the kitchen together, their steps unhurried, their voices low and calm. There was no competition in their eyes now, only quiet understanding. Chief Nana watched them from a distance. He did not interrupt. He had learned to observe, to listen. The weight of his past actions still sat on his chest, but something new had joined it, gratitude. The home felt different because the people inside it had changed. Later that afternoon, they sat together under the old mango tree. The breeze carried the sound of birds and distant laughter from the village. For a moment, no one spoke. Peace, after all, does not rush. Kochi broke the silence gently. We have talked about healing, she said. But healing also means choosing how we move forward. Adana nodded slowly. Her eyes softened. For a long time, everything in this house was about what we lacked, she said. A child. Approval. Proof. She paused, her voice trembling just slightly. But what if we stop chasing what the world demands and start choosing what love offers? Chief Nana looked up, surprised. What do you mean? He asked quietly. Kochi took a deep breath. There are children out there with no home, she said. Children who wait every night for someone to choose them. Her voice grew steadier as she continued. What if we become that home, not because we are pressured, but because we are ready? The question settled into the air like a blessing. Could a family be built without blood? Chief felt his throat tighten. Maybe being a father is not about pride, but presence. Adana reached for Kochi's hand, squeezing it gently. I would love a child, she said. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to give love that has nowhere else to go. Her eyes shone, not with tears, be you. Time passed, not with noise, but with steady change. The compound that once carried bitterness now carried laughter, soft conversations, and shared responsibility. Chief Nana was no longer the man who gave orders from a distance. He rose early, swept the yard when needed, listened before speaking, and apologized when he was wrong. The transformation was quiet but deep. Kochi noticed it first in small moments. The way he waited instead of shouting. The way he asked instead of assuming. Adana noticed it in his eyes, no longer proud and defensive, but humble and open. Respect had replaced fear, and understanding had replaced control. One evening, they sat together as a family, sharing a simple meal. No special plates. No hierarchy at the table. Just 3 people eating, talking, and smiling. Chief looked at the 2 women who had once stood against him and felt a wave of emotion rise in his chest. I almost lost everything because I was afraid of the truth. He cleared his throat. I used to think being a man meant never admitting weakness, he said softly. But now I know real strength is owning your truth. Kochi and Adana exchanged a glance, their faces calm but proud. They had not destroyed him, they had helped rebuild him. Soon after, the sound of small footsteps entered the compound. The adopted child, full of curiosity and innocent laughter, became the heartbeat of the home. She called Kochi and Adana her mothers without confusion. She called Chief her father without fear. Watching her run across the yard, Chief felt something he had never felt before: peace without pressure. Was this not what everyone truly wanted, a home where love did not compete, but multiplied? The village noticed the change. Gossip faded. Whispers lost their power. People no longer saw a proud chief with 2 wives, they saw a united family that had survived truth and chosen healing. Kochi stood one afternoon watching her family from the doorway. Adana was braiding the child's hair, laughing.